Great, thank you. And Corey, if you would go ahead and introduce yourself as well, please.
My name is Corey O'Connor. I'm the Director of Technology at Montgomery County Educational Service Center in Dayton, Ohio.
Excellent. Welcome, Corey. Thomas.
Hello, my name is Thomas Molina, and I am the Chief Information Technology Officer for Corpus Christi ISD, and that's in Texas.
Welcome, Thomas. And Jennifer.
Hello, I am Jennifer Clauser. I am the Executive Director of Technology for the Auburn School District. We're in Washington State in the Puget Sound.
Welcome, Jennifer. Thank you all for being here today. I'm going to take just a moment because there's a lot of different words that get used or a lot of different ideas that come to mind when we talk about AI, artificial intelligence. So I'm going to give just a quick overview about what we're talking about today. So the term AI really comes from the concept of making intelligent machines. Today, though, when we talk about AI, we're going to emphasize that these are machines that can learn somewhat like human beings learn. And so that's going to get us to how we can also leverage AI. I actually heard a really great version of the term AI as being not just artificial intelligence, but also augmented intelligence, where we use AI to augment what we can do. But in that vein, let's talk about machine learning, which machine learning is a branch of AI that focuses on using data and algorithms to imitate the way that people learn, basically help machines improve their accuracy in leveraging that data. And that's what really leads us to capabilities like generative AI and predictive analytics. So generative AI is the use of machine learning that helps generate new content and ideas from a lot of the content and ideas that come from that database or the backend collection of information that is leveraged by the computer to reconstitute in a way that information. And then, of course, predictive analytics is the use of that data to forecast future outcomes. The very basic use of predictive analytics is when you're typing an email and the system wants to finish your sentence for you. And instead of having to actually finish that sentence, it has a pretty good scope of being able to understand what you want to say next. So with just some basic definitions in play, I'm going to go ahead and ask our first question of the day. Jennifer, what can AI do for us? And are there benefits for schools for protecting students' data and systems?
Great, thank you. I love the first part of this question because I love to think about essentially what Amy said is augmented intelligence. What can this tool help me with and our students and our staff? How can it support us through our daily tasks? So a benefit for us in our work and our students is it can provide things like personalized learning. If we have a staff member or a student who is involved in a lesson, the machine can, respond to students and provide lessons that are specific to them and really support them. The other benefits is it can be a staff member or students, thought partner in their work. They can help them think through a paper or any type of activity. They could help alert staff of potentially, if we have AI analyzing student email or communications, we could have a system alert us of some sort of, social emotional challenges that our students have, and help staff know that students need support. Those are some things that I think about in various benefits. In relation to cybersecurity, the benefit I think about more along the lines of how can it help us analyze the data that traverses our network in a faster, better, cleaner, more efficient way, perhaps self-heal the network, stop things, before they start or as they start. I think about those types of artificial intelligence tools that can help us be more efficient as we protect the data in our systems. So those are the things that I really think about when I think about AI, especially with cybersecurity, because I think it can help us really get us a leg up on all the massive amounts of data that's under our responsibility.
Jennifer, I think that's a really great point, right? We have so much data and we're never going to have the staffing to manage or deal with that data that's coming in from a lot of different sources. So there's definitely some benefits and opportunities, especially with systems that use machine learning to help us up our cybersecurity game. So let's go to Corey with a follow-up question, though, because of course, whenever we have the positives and the opportunities in a technology, we also have some challenges that we need to think about. So, Corey, from your perspective, what are the data privacy implications of artificial intelligence, and what do we need to be aware of as we start leveraging these tools in our school environments?
Yeah, I think whenever we look at data privacy, I think awareness is always should be in the forefront. So data collection and the data security behind AI really come to mind in this question, because right now AI will really be the simplest that it has always been in our lives, and it'll just continue to grow. It'll be getting smarter and smarter. Another way to say that is just it's at the dumbest it's going to be. I mean, I know it's come a long way, but it has a lot of growth and one of the most advanced areas in technology today. So when it comes to data collection, what we have to think about is there's a large amount of data being used to train and improve the AI sets that we're working with today. I know some of the AIs have, the versions behind it. One of the bigger ones is on a version 3 or 4 right now. And what type of data is it collecting? So there's really sensitive data in there, like it might be collecting from you or other inputs or other databases like PII, PHI, and PFI. And so as it's collecting these large data sets, and maybe even digging into the cybersecurity side of knowing more about your network or knowing how to self-heal, that really brings up one of the scariest parts of AI, which is that AI really potentially knows more about us than we really do about ourselves. And so then digging a little deeper, it might even know more about our organization than our organization knows about ourselves. And that in itself, just being aware that, the data we put in today is going to be the data that's used in the future to build future generations of this AI. So what third parties have access to this data set? And what other concerns might be around that? And then when it comes to data privacy implications, something to think about is just the simple informed consent discussion. So, a lot of the users that are putting this data in might not really know that it's being used and stored to be kind of learned on and stored inside those data sets. So informed consent's a big one. There's really kind of a lack of regulation and accountability. So like what regulations are behind who can be shared what, and are they required to tell us who those third parties are? And then who's really accountable if the data is wrong? Or if the data then, if you're using it to self-heal or to try to prevent and detect malware, who is going to be accountable if it's wrong and if it does not have the correct predictive analysis that we want it to have? And last but not least, there's always the potential that the data AI is bringing to us is biased. It sometimes can be discriminative and sometimes can profile. So those are some things to keep in mind as we start to use AI and as it begins to build.
Corey, I think those are really great things to be aware of, especially when we think about what the data is we put in, right? We shouldn't be putting in protected data into a data set we don't know who owns it or where it lives. But also in terms of what we get back out, I have seen some very interesting reference or information coming back out of some of these data sets, which basically references books that have never been written by authors who didn't write them. So it's very, at this point, somewhat still early in the process and the development. And so the other thing is, of course, making sure our staff and our students know, hey, everything that comes back out isn't necessarily accurate as well. So I think those are really excellent points. So let's roll over and talk to Brian, because as I mentioned, there's some things we might want to make sure students, staff, faculty, family are aware of. So, Brian, who needs to be at the table when we have these conversations about AI? Um, who are the participants and what specific areas should we be focusing on for those participants?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. I think AI, I guess I'm going to start by saying AI has actually been around a lot longer than some people think. When you think about, like, I think, Amy, you gave the example earlier about you're writing an email and it starts to kind of predict what the rest of your sentence should look like. That kind of thing has been around for quite a while now. So, AI really touches just about everything that we do in terms of technology now. So, I think that because it's a technology thing within the school system, there still is a little bit of a legacy tendency to say, oh, well, that's a technology thing. So it's the technology folks that have to figure out how to work through this. But that's just not the reality with something as powerful and as prevalent as AI is. So, with AI getting integrated into all these other tools, AI is going to be embedded into like the whole Microsoft 365 suite. It's already embedded into a lot of Google tools, Google search, and a variety of other things. But really to kind of get specific with the answer to the question, given that it is that widespread, I think you really need a pretty wide cross section of individuals to be at the table when you're trying to decide what your organization is going to do in terms of AI. So, for example, you definitely want the tech people there. I mean, that's kind of stating the obvious, but they'll be able to guide some of the ways that artificial intelligence is used, some of the ways that it might show up, and they'll be able to talk about how to recognize when AI is being used, because it might not always be obvious. And then you're also going to want representation from your senior leadership, like your superintendent or executive director and the cabinet. There's things that you have to think about in terms of like, let's say, financial implications. So if I'm writing a grant application, for example, what kind of financial information do I want to put into an AI prompt to get it to help me write that grant application? I don't necessarily want to tell it exactly what the results of my last financial audit were, because who knows what's going to happen with that data once it's in that system. So I think you need the business and financial team there for two purposes. One is to be able to educate them on concerns like that, and potential cybersecurity risks with AI, but also to get their input on things that they could use AI for. There's AI out there now that can help them analyze their spreadsheets and their ledgers and accounting documents and things of that nature. So you need to really know how they want to use that. What tools should they have access to? How should they use those tools? What are kind of the expectations for what they do and do not do with those tools? So yeah, senior leadership, business team, IT team. And then I would also say you want some curriculum representation there in terms of like your curriculum directors, curriculum supervisors, and the kind of going off of the direct cybersecurity track for just a second, but the prevalence of AI in education has really created a need now to re-examine the assessments that we're using. So, for example, you wouldn't want to give students an assignment that says write a book report on of mice and men or something. And I know I'm being really giving a trivial example there, So I apologize for that. But, like, if you just kind of follow through with the thought experiment for a second, if I were to go into AI and tell it, give me a book report on Of Mice and Men, it's going to do it, right? Like, ChatGPT or Bard AI or any of those other ones out there, they're going to spit out a book report. So then the curriculum team needs to be able to provide input on, like, what are the expectations going to be of our students, and what are the expectations going to be of our teachers, and the assessments that we're providing to those students. So all of that needs to be thought through as well. And then you're also going to want some representation there from your teachers, because we've had some discussions here in our region, and understandably so, teachers are pretty anxious, particularly the teachers that are more focused on the liberal arts, so English language, ELA, even some of the world language teachers now, because AI has gotten really good at doing translations. So you want teachers to be able to understand their inputs and what are their concerns. They're going to be the ones that are working with the students on it. And then you also want to be able to educate the teachers on the security implications of it. Like, tell your students, don't use AI to give them advice on their social interactions. You don't want to start using AI as a diary, because you don't know what's going to happen with the information that the students put in there. So it's a little bit of digital citizenship as well for the students, not just the academic pieces. But you really need the teachers to be able to give you some input on that, because they're the ones that are the closest to them. In terms of legal, I'm thinking laws are pretty far behind this phenomenon right now. So, I'm not sure. Again, this is just my opinion, but I'm not sure that legal teams are going to have a whole lot of helpful input at this point, just because it's so new. But there is some case law that's now starting to come about, so they could be helpful when it comes to that and understanding some of the legal liabilities and risks. I think if I was going to be creating like some sort of a committee, I might only involve legal near the end. If we're about to publish something, I might ask legal to review it. And then, finally, I think it's always healthy to have some students there, maybe some from student council, or, other student groups that you have. But I learned more from talking to students about how they're using AI than I learned from talking to adults about it. So, you talk directly to the students, and they start to share what it is that they're actually doing. And then if you get students included in that conversation early, they can kind of be advocates for the overall strategy of the organization, and they can help to steer what their peers are doing, and kind of like spreading the knowledge of how AI can be used, how it can be used well, and how it can be used maliciously, or responsibly and irresponsibly. So I think it is important to have students at the table. You may not want them in all of your meetings, of course, but at least when it comes to the implications for students and in the classroom. So yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like I said everybody needs to be there, but AI does have like I said, a really wide reach right now, and it's embedded in just about everything that we're doing. So to try to isolate AI into just one discipline, I think right now is it's kind of a fallacy. It's like if you're using software, you're probably using AI in some way. You just may not know it yet. But that's kind of the way that I look at it.
Brian, that's a really great point, right? Like many things, it's moved from the technology focus is technology and into technology underpins, and then therefore cybersecurity and should underpin everything that we do because it's so integrated in our daily lives. So how this impacts students and families is not going to go away. So their role in understanding how to use it appropriately is going to be very important for how they both use the tools and protect themselves from giving up information that they should not. In the vein of not giving up information or knowing um, what people are doing with our information and how it's managed, and from sort of a contractual standpoint, we're going to go to Thomas for the next question, which is really how do we know when our vendors are using AI within their tools? And do we have a right to know Should we have disclosure? And to some extent, should this be included in the contractual information about where our data lives and how it's managed? So, Thomas, I'm going to hand it over to you to tackle this particularly tough question.
Yeah, it is. It's a very tough question. And Jennifer and Corey and Brian all kind of touched on this question as well in their comments that they've already made when if you listen to what they were saying. So one of the things is we know that AI is an exciting new product and everybody's excited and trying to jump on board and figure out how to use it and best use it to get an edge or to get control. If a vendor is selling you a product, they'll notify you real quickly that AI is a part of their solution, because what they're doing is they're saying, hey, we use AI and our analysis to help you get better information and let you go that direction. They're real great about adding that as a feature set. But when they're using AI internally on your data to go ahead and sift through that mounds and mounds of data that you've created as an ISI or your business system, they get to understand you better. I know that when I worked for AT&T, that was part of what I had to do was break down and do big data breakdowns so I could understand the customer better so that I could give marketing information of how to go ahead and approach and how to go ahead and react to a customer. So don't believe that they will not do that. They're going to do the same thing, except they're going to be able to do it faster and much more efficiently by using AI, and not just use you alone, but using all their customers are associated to it. And that turns the eye or focus to another direction of what we have to be careful about when they're beginning to sift through our data and look at information. So do we have a right to know? Absolutely. We do data protection agreements already. We do agreements with vendors to make sure if something happens in a cybersecurity venue, that they have to report that back to us so that we know that data that we've given to them could be exposed. We need to know when they're utilizing our data and sifting through our data to do analytics to better understand us or better understand the group of people they're selling to. So we can go ahead and say, am I going to allow that? Yes or no? Should it be disclosed? Well, that's a federal government or a state that's going to have to deal with that aspect. I think that was very well mentioned by Brian with the legal aspect, saying, hey, we are far, far behind in the infancy from legal aspects of what we're doing and how we're going ahead and regulate. But regulations do come about, and the way they come about is by making statements, or the worst case scenario is always somebody does something wrong, gets caught, and then all of a sudden everybody starts jumping on board about how we're going to correct the issue. Laws are created for the people who make mistakes, not created for the masses who are doing things right. So these disclosures should occur and should be something that our legislation should be looking at now.
Thomas, thank you for that. I would also add probably that you want to make sure you read any contracts you have to understand what data people are collecting that may be your data. And I know they're not the most exciting documents, but contract review is super important in understanding where your data is, who owns it, right? It should be your data to own and how it's being handled. So some of the, so I will call old approaches are still current and valid for how we handle these. So we're going to go to our lightning round question, but before we go to our lightning round question, I'm going to invite all of our participants online. If you have questions you would like to ask, please post those in the webinar chat, and I will follow up and ask those of the panel. So panelists, here we go. Lightning round question. Should we be scared or excited or both? And you better tell us why. I'm going to start with Brian.
Sure. I think I will say excited, and I'm not going to go with scared. I'm going to say cautious and wary, maybe a better word, because for all of the things that we were just talking about, there's a lot to unpack with AI, and we need to understand what all of that is, or at least enough of that to be able to make informed decisions. But also excited because there's so much power in it. There's so much we can do that, I'm really excited for the future. And every time there's a news item about AI, I get a little bit of a refresher on that excitement. So that's my thoughts on it.
Fantastic. All right, Corey, you're up.
Yeah, I think we should be both. We're really on a brink of an evolutionary tool. I think how it develops is really up to us, which brings in a little bit of that fear into the equation. So a little bit of both.
Excellent. Jennifer.
Yeah, I'm going to, obviously I'm going to agree with my colleagues that just spoke. I'm super excited. I was excited, what, 3-4 years ago when Google and Microsoft both started saying, oh, isn't this how you want to complete the sentence? I just thought that was the greatest thing ever. And it's really only gotten better from there. And it really just triggers my fascination of what's possible. So I'm super excited. I agree with the cautious and I will say scared only because it's the thing that keeps me up at night, which is the cybersecurity incident that will happen. I think about we train our staff that, hey, be really careful about a phishing email, and here's what a phishing email might look like, so that you can identify it. And what if that phishing email is perfect? And how do we help staff then know what the next, because we know that is in my opinion, is the single most dangerous part of a cybersecurity framework is the human being. The human beings are the ones that are going to make the errors, probably, in these events. So that's what frightens me about some of this is what the bad actors can and will do with it that we have to combat.
Well, Jennifer, you just made me a little scared too, as I thought about the concept of AI-empowered social engineering. So maybe that's a topic for a future webinar. And so, Thomas, last person on the lightning round.
I would also agree that it is both. I'm very excited about the potential, what it can do, of how to go ahead and use it in instruction, to go ahead and give it into the hands of the students to help them move to the next step in their evolution and with utilizing technologies and progressing forward, but with the understanding of exactly what Corey and Brian and Jennifer were all saying is that all that information may not always be accurate or correct. So those are things that we have to make sure they understand, that just because it's there doesn't mean it's correct. And then the other portion of it, of course, the fear is that the unknown. How will it be used in the future, and how would it be used as a tool for bad actors as they move forward in their quest to keep that billion-dollar business moving forward?
Outstanding. So as we are at the end of our official structured question set, I'm going to open up the floor for folks who are online. If you have questions, please post them into the chat session, and we'll be happy to take our best shot at answering them. Folks, while you are loading questions in, I'm going to ask a question of the panel, and whoever would like to answer, go for it. From your perspective, are we ready in K-12 for AI to use this to both augment our educational strategies, but especially to augment our cybersecurity strategies? What do you think?
I don't mind. We're working right now on developing policies. So what we're doing is exactly what Brian had stated. We're working with students, we're working with families, we're working with the curriculum writers, and we're working with the teachers and the principals who have to manage the entire aspect of what's going on within the school. So we're putting those groups together. What we don't want to do is tie hands for them, but what we don't want to do also is just be a wild west and out there say do whatever you need to do and just play with it. So we want to have some type of structure put around it. But that's exactly what we're looking at is developing those policies. Yes, are we ready? Not 100%, but we were hoping to have those things set up and put into play by mid-year.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Oh, go for it.
Sorry, Zoom, Zoom lag. Didn't realize somebody else was jumping. Anyway, the I think we're at least in our region here, we're trying to embrace it. We have some committees that have been established to start thinking through, what we should be doing, what we should be looking for. In terms of cybersecurity, I think there's a lot of potential to automate some of the things that that maybe we used to have to do manually. So if you think about like endpoint detection and response, the response part is where the AI comes into play. It can do a little bit of the detection too, but I would say really it's when it comes to mitigating any kind of a threat. There's a lot of power there with different AI tools that are coming to market now. So yeah. So anyway, I think that's kind of the way that we're looking at it. Sorry, did I cut somebody off? I didn't mean to.
I was just going to add on to what both of you were saying is one of the questions would be, we should absolutely require our vendors now to disclose any AI that they're using or intending to use, and also we should require them to give us the control to turn it off if we feel like we need to. Or in certain instances, maybe we need to turn it off there. We should absolutely be writing that into our privacy statements and our data protection policies. Auburn is currently, like many districts, just developing. We're working both up and down in our processes. We're working with our instructional teams to, we really want staff to know how to use it safely, because as Thomas mentioned, we want them to use this great tool. We want them to enable that, and our kids are using them already, so let's teach them. And also moving up, educating our superintendents, educating them about what it is. There's no reason to be super afraid, but here's the facts of these things, and really leveraging some really great checklists that are available now that really help a district or an agency think through how do we do this. So that's really helpful.
All right. Thank you all so much for answering that question. I actually don't have any additional questions coming in from the audience, but what I would like to point out and follow up on Jennifer's statement about checklists is if you go to cosin.org/AI, we just released a K-12 generative artificial intelligence readiness checklist that is available for you to take a look at and leverage. And of course, we'll continue to bring more resources that focus on AI and cybersecurity, and other elements that are going to continue to impact and develop or change as we go along. So with that, I want to thank our panelists today for bringing their expertise to our conversation, and really like where we are in digging into and developing strategies for addressing both the positive opportunities for cybersecurity in the AI space and the challenges that AI creates for cybersecurity and data privacy. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Brian, Corey, Jennifer, and Thomas, thank you very much for your time today. And of course, this will also be available later as a recording on the COSIN website. So if you missed any part, we will have that available for you at a later time. So thank you all, and have an excellent Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Thank you.